Hi guys! Today we're going to be painting some lovely miniature illustrations all based around my favourite holiday, and that is Bonfire Night. Now that's a UK specific event where we all gather around and celebrate with fireworks and bonfires, and it's an amazing cosy evening. You may not know about it if you're outside of the UK, but it's all things autumnal, so get your paints and let's get started. Okay, we're just doing a little one today because we've done so many lovely autumnal illustration themes, and Bonfire Night is very specific, so we're going to do a little, we're going to do a toffee apple, which is one of my favourites. I'm going to put the toffee apple in the middle. Now I'm going to do my toffee apple upside down, and then actually, yeah, no, I will do my toffee apple upside down. We'll have a little bit of a sticky bit around the side, and then that lovely kind of caramelly foot that it gets. So we'll have a toffee apple, and then we're going to have some mittens. And I absolutely adore the kind of mittens that are on a string. So we'll have those as well. And then we're going to have a little sparkler and firework rocket combo. So I guess you could say it's technically a few more illustrations than just 3, because we've got a few things going on here. Okay, so this is going to be our little Bonfire Night celebration. So let's start off with some Cadmium Red. There we go, and we're going to start off with a beautiful bright cone to our rocket. So I do the outlines in a fairly wet colour, so I get my shape right. Clean my brush off, dab it, and then I'm going to use all that pigment that's already in there to draw it in. And because it's a cone, I'm going to sort of get that little bit of unpainted shine just down the side there. Now that's going to have to dry before we work our way on the sort of body of the rocket, but I can colour in a little bit of that stick the rocket sits on. Okay, I'm going to continue with that theme, and here is our toffee apple stick. So I'm using like a fairly large brush, a size 2 here, but I'm still getting an awful lot of control, and it's just down to your personal preference really. So I'm going to make my toffee apple with a bit of burnt sienna, cadmium red, and some cadmium orange as well. Just need to wake the cadmium orange up, and our toffee apple is super shiny, so we'll definitely be giving ourselves a bit of unpainted shine. So I'm going to do a cadmium orange outline. Clean the brush off, dab it there. Big old shiny bit there. Big old shiny bit down there. Bit of red now. Now we can just fill in the bottom there. If you've never had a toffee apple, you I mean, it's a funny one. I think it's one of those ones that the idea of it is possibly better than the actual eating of it, because they are an absolute devil on your teeth. So if anyone's got dentures or anything dodgy with your teeth, maybe steer clear. But they are just a lovely symbol of Bonfire Night for me. So it's really nice and shiny, and a little bit more red, rosy rouge. Okay, that's looking nice. Now let's do some fun knitted patterns on our mittens. So to start off with, we'll do a bit of a chunky rim around the wrist, a little cuff. So I'm just doing that with French Ultramarine, just doing little stripes down these mittens. Actually no, I beg your pardon, it's not French Ultramarine, it's Cobalt Blue. Now I'm painting this in 2020, just in case we look off into the future and everyone's revisiting these tutorials in years to come. And we just got the news last night that we are going back into lockdown because of COVID, so the chances are nobody will actually get to experience Bonfire Night quite in the way we were hoping this year. So this feels all the more sort of important to paint these nice shapes. Okay, so I'm going to completely sort of cover the rest of this in a really pale blue. And then we're going to come back and paint more stitching over the top. I quite like the idea of just touching that there. Yeah, lovely. So we're just sort of in the basic wash stage at the moment. And again, just a simple, at this stage, blue line for these mittens. And we will add plenty more to that once it's dry. Next, let's paint our rocket stripes. So I'm doing this and then filling them in with a clean wet brush. We're just using the paint that's already on there. Now I haven't painted this sparkler. Now again, I'm not entirely sure if a sparkler is something that is completely sort of UK based. I can't believe it is. So if you haven't ever seen a sparkler before, they're just a very little handheld firework, which seems completely crazy if you've never had one before, but they are, well, they're as safe as they can be. So it's a little sort of wire pole with a bit of flammable something on it, and I'm going to paint this by using a little bit of cadmium yellow to start, and I'm going to begin by just sort of using a bit of a wash from the center and then gradually dabbing it out to the edges of my little sort of radius I created. I'm always starting in the middle then gradually going out, because I think it looks better if it's really quite pale and bright by the time it reaches the edge of that circle. And then I'm going to do a little blend of orange in the middle. Even though it's usually a white hot light, I think that's going to depict our sparkler even better. Okay, let's move on to our toffee apple. So I can add a little bit more detail this time. So a smaller brush. A few little lines for our wooden stick. And then just a little extra bit of shaping, which helps with a few things. It helps define the edges, but people always think about the highlights when you're trying to do a sort of glossy thing, but it's almost as much about the lowlights, because they are the thing that really make the highlights stand out. So where there is light, there had to be some dark. Just going to round that bottom a little bit more. Lovely. And then for our mittens, let's start creating a bit of a pattern. So I'm going to use the same colour throughout, and I'll do it on the top one first. So I'm going to start with a sort of stripe of solid colour across the top. You do need to wait until your previous layer has dried to do this kind of detail. This is called layering, as opposed to blending. Blending is when you can add a layer on top to a wet layer and they will bleed into each other. If you want to know a little bit more about the basics of watercolour, then I highly recommend you visit my Watercolour for Beginners playlists, because they have all the information you will need. Okay, so I am going to create a bit of a diamond pattern. That pattern is going to repeat around the glove, so we'll have it coming off the side there and off the side there as well. And then below it as well. And then to continue the diamond theme, we'll do a little row of them. And when I say diamond, it's just a square on its side. And I think, like the top of the mitten, I will make the thumb a solid colour too. Okay, so we'll repeat that on this glove, and then we will go back and see what detail is left to add. That's looking really nice now, and I think I'm going to keep that colour going and add a few more stripes onto our rocket. can probably just see a little bit of one down there. Now we also need a little bit of a plume of sparks and things coming out the bottom. So, in a slightly similar fashion to our sparkler, I'm going to start off with a sort of fairly strong but wet cadmium yellow and just dab it away. It's making quite a trail. And then we'll give ourselves a little bit of orange in the centre. Nice. Let's have another look at this one. So I'm going to add a little bit more detail to the sparkler stick itself. Not too much, but just even the really simple things can always do with a little bit more detail, and it just makes them just that little bit more real. And then I'm going to go back in with a tiny bit more quite concentrate cadmium yellow and just do some dabs of that on top, just to really up the sparkle. I want to add a little bit of wood detail to my stick. It's all these little bits that I think a lot of people would not think to do, that for me is the point where it suddenly goes from being a fun little illustration into, oh my god, that's really fun and quite lifelike. And because I love stripes and I just can't help myself, I'm going to do another one over the top of the orange one, just to bring in that red colour. I think that looks really fun. A little bit more concentrated red, just again, it's almost like that dark low light as well as the highlight. I think it just helps make these shapes even more rounded. Oh, I'm really excited, I love this. Okay, this is looking pretty nice. Just because I can't leave things alone, I'll just give it an absolute last little bit. And now let's have a look at our mittens, because we're nearly there with these as well. But I think we could add in a little bit of the red, because when I am doing these little illustrations all together, I like it when all the colours seem to fit together on the page. So I'm just doing dots in between where I can see there could be extra little bits of stitching. But we do have one last little strategy with these mittens to make them look really nice and knitted. But for now I'm just going to do the the sort of cord between the two gloves. So I'm just doing little sort of diagonal dabs. I will share with you the fact that I rather enjoyed wearing mittens on a string, probably a bit later than I really should have done. I'm quite I lose things quite easily. Does that make me a careless person or a shambolic person? Anyway, it just made perfect sense, even as a grown adult, to maybe have mittens on a string. Oh dear, is that really terrible? Okay, and now a little bit of red as well. It was probably also I was trying to be cool in a sort of ironic way. Okay, I really need to stop talking now and you'll lose all respect for me. Right. I'd say it's been a good 10 years since I had mittens on a string. That's looking really fun, and we are going to now use some Prussian Blue, no, all these different blues I'm using. French Ultramarine, which is a darker blue than the blue we've been using, the Cobalt. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to just find little places where I can add almost like a few stitching lines. It's a bit like a sort of shadow, I suppose. And it's not massively obvious, but I think it will make all the difference when it's finished. Nice one. Okay, so the last thing to do is for us to add a little bit of shadow to this. Then we'll rub out the pencil and see what we've got left. So for a bit of shadow, I'll mix up a bit of French Ultramarine and some burnt sienna. There we go, that's a nice shadowy mix. Remember, you can always add, but it's hard to take it away, so I like to go in fairly lightly to start off with. And I'm just going to run the brush down the side of that. Now that's also taking quite a bit of the colour with it, so we just have to be careful not to smudge things too much, but I quite like the way in which that shadow is there. We don't really have shadow on a sparkler, but what I will do is a little bit just underneath the toffee apple. And these mittens seem to be hovering in midair, so we'll have a little bit of it like that. Nice. I'm going to use my smaller brush to come in here. And let's rub out the pencil and see what it all looks like. So having rubbed it out with my trusty putty rubber, everything is looking really, really lovely. We can now see the effect of those sparkles, and yeah, All is left for me to say is happy Bonfire Night, and I hope you get to celebrate in some way wherever you are. Thanks so much for watching. I really want to go and find a toffee apple now. So thank you so much to my patrons for your support. Your support enables me to create videos like this that everyone can enjoy. And if you enjoyed the video, then please hit the like button. That makes me know I'm doing the right stuff. And comment below to let me know the kind of thing that you'd like to learn next. And if you subscribe, then you'll never miss another video. All right, bye.